The fuel cell is this kind of mystery object. It's almost like Back to the Future. It's the thing with tubes going in that does stuff and electricity comes out. And I mean, it's certainly technology that's beyond my understanding. But
well, essentially, the great thing about hydrogen fuel cell technology is you produce the electricity on board. So we have the hydrogen tank within which is compressed hydrogen, and that hydrogen combines with oxygen in the fuel cell. Chemical reaction takes place between those two gases, and electricity is produced, and that electricity powers an electric motor which propels the vehicle. So it's not the hydrogen itself going through an internal combustion engine, it's the electricity that is produced from the fuel cell which powers the electric motor.
The big questions that I've come across regarding hydrogen fuel cell cars are, the two big ones are, one, the cost of the hydrogen fuel cell, which at the moment is, I know, quite expensive. And then the second is the supply of hydrogen, where the hydrogen comes from and how it's stored and moved, where you produce the hydrogen from.
Well, maybe if we go back a stage, in terms of looking at the different types, we think in general there's going to be these two types of technologies. There's going to be battery electric vehicles where the electricity is generated from the grid, plugged in and charges up the battery, and then we'll have fuel cell electric vehicles as an alternative technology whereby the electricity is generated on board. As the car industry, rightly, we're being challenged to bring low carbon technologies and to really move the game on. But sometimes we create this amazing technology such as the Clarity zero emissions, and then people turn around, but you're still using energy to create the fuel. And well, yes, we are currently, but look, there is an opportunity to produce it in a renewable way, and even if energy is being used, then we need to remember that there's a whole amount of energy and muck being produced in creating petrol and diesel at the moment. But we're trying to move the game on, and producing a zero emission car, that really is moving the game on, and with the potential to produce that energy in a sustainable way as well, or the fuel in a sustainable way, and that's, I think, why we're so excited.
The essential thing is that you don't have to go, for instance, to South America or Iceland to get hydrogen. No. And I think that's a really key point. You can get hydrogen right out there. You don't need, which I think is very important. And then once you've understood that, you can then say, well, the energy to create that hydrogen, we have a huge choice of how we create that energy.
To a degree, that's one of the benefits of hydrogen technology, is that there are a huge range of ways in which hydrogen can be produced. The greenness of electricity production, and again, we know that there are a variety of ways in which electricity can be produced. We can produce it from coal-fired power stations, which aren't particularly green, or you can, at the other end of the extreme, you can produce electricity from renewable sources. If we were to use electricity that's produced from renewable sources to create the hydrogen, there are essentially zero to very few emissions. You put that hydrogen through a fuel cell vehicle and there's zero emissions. So we have a pretty much sustainable loop. At the moment, over 56 million tonnes of hydrogen are produced each year currently.
Wow!
So there's already a huge industry producing hydrogen, but it's not used for
vehicles.
For vehicles.
Because what other uses is it used in industrial processes? And
frankly, I don't really know.
Right. But a lot of people need a lot of hydrogen.
Already, there's 56 million tonnes being.
56 million tonnes, because hydrogen is incredibly light. That's a lot of hydrogen.
Yeah, exactly. If we look at emissions from vehicles, there's two types of emissions. There's the well to tank, so the amount of environmental cost in generating the fuel, and then there is the tank to wheel, so the amount of energy or environmental cost of using that fuel to propel the vehicle.
Another one of the questions that I'm not sure about is I think it's best to talk in kilowatt hours, isn't it, in terms of electricity? For the same weight car, so one car's got batteries, one car's got a hydrogen fuel cell, and you've got your 1 kilowatt hour, and you send that down a long wire to that car, or you send it through a system that produces hydrogen. Which car goes further? I mean, has anyone done that calculation?
Well, from an environmental impact, there's there's no difference, because there's essentially is zero greenhouse gas emissions. Then you're looking at comparing the two technologies. At that stage, you're comparing the effectiveness of fuel cell technology as a propulsion technology compared to the battery electric vehicle. Now, I would argue that using a fuel cell is much more appropriate, because you get the benefits of hydrogen as an energy carrier. Now, hydrogen is a very effective energy carrier, and in a fuel cell we release that hydrogen, so that gives you the long range that hydrogen vehicles give. A fuel cell vehicle about 280 miles. Hydrogen vehicles can deliver good performance, and then you get the benefits of how you put that hydrogen into the car. It takes about 2-3 minutes. With a battery electric vehicle, you've got that energy. You're trying to store the energy in a battery, and electricity doesn't like to be stored in batteries, and it's not necessarily a particularly effective way of doing that. So you get the current difficulties with battery electric vehicles of the limited range, the relatively poor performance, and the recharging time of up to 4, 5, 6 hours.
Right. Batteries are intrinsically heavy.
Yes.
And so you might lose the weight of a large internal combustion engine, because an electric motor is intrinsically small and no gearbox, blah blah blah. But you're making up, often more than making up for it, with a big battery pack. And I wonder what the comparative weight of a tank of hydrogen and a fuel cell is to a big battery pack that would carry a car 200 miles, which is the only fair way of comparing it, really. Okay.
We've done some very rough calculations in terms of to get the performance and the range that the FCX Clarity has. I think you'd need about a 2-ton battery in your car, in terms of where we are with current
battery technology.
Battery technology we know is going to improve. We know we're at a process whereby it should improve. It should improve fairly rapidly. It's our view, though, that you're always going to have this lump of weight in the car trying to hold electricity.
The other fears I've heard, though, are certainly the experiment I did on a TV show where we popped a balloon full of hydrogen, and it was quite loud.
Yes, yeah.
And then we had to warn the police that it wasn't a bomb. So I mean, there is that fear of, I'm driving along in a vehicle that's got a fairly powerful lump of explosive in a tank behind me. Yeah. How safe is that? Well, my argument has always been, well, you've been driving around for the whole of your life with, if you set fire to a pan full of petrol and you've got eyebrows. Yeah, it's frightening. And I don't know how strong you make the tank, because it's also under pressure, which is slightly different.
That's right. Yeah, hydrogen is stored under pressure. In the FCX Clarity, it's stored about 5,000 psi, 350 bars. So it is. Yeah, it is under a lot of pressure. The FCX Clarity has been crash tested as per all our other vehicles.
Right.
It has hydrogen sensors on board. So in the very unlikely event of a hydrogen leak, a powerful ventilation system goes off, which gets rid of all the hydrogen out of the car, and the supply line to the tank is shut off.
Right. The relative efficiency of the best, most modern, most beautifully designed internal combustion engine in comparison with an electric motor. It is not that efficient. No, the amount of energy put into it, how much is dissipated in heat and in lubrication.
20%.
25% is about as good as it gets, and an electric motor is around 80, 75 to 80%. Yeah. Well, however you look at it, that's better. So if you can get the power to that electric motor, clearly an electric motor is the better option. Yeah,
that's right. Now, when you come to drive it, you'll see it drives really well, and the performance is great. And driving 160 kilometres an hour up a German autobahn in a zero emission vehicle that can go for 250 to 280 miles on a tank of hydrogen is it's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
it is, and when you actually see. It's all very well talking about the theory, and textbooks and how it all works. We're actually getting into the car and driving it and seeing it in the, as a reality.
Yeah.
And to think, well, we could at some stage all be driving around in these types of vehicles in the future, I think is pretty exciting.